Oh, what's up, boys, and welcome back to another replay cast. Today we have Trap versus Innovation, as you can see. And this is a series that was played recently in the alphax showmatch series, I believe it's called. It's a best of 9. We're going to be doing a couple of games now. Perhaps I'll upload a couple of games on another day as well. But let's get started. In the top right corner, spawning as the blue Terran, it is Innovation. And in the bottom left, it is Trap. Now, I watched most of the games already, and it's quite some interesting stuff that happens. Of course, Trap probably one of the better PvT players right now in the world. I want to say that Classic, Trap, and Dare are very similar level PvT, but as Classic went to the army, we haven't seen much of Dare recently. I'm gonna have to give the title to Trap for best PvT. He's especially known for his Stargate style, where he likes to open either with Phoenixes or Oracles, get into those big charge lot armies, fantastic high Templar control in general, and he really knows how to play proper early and mid game. I haven't seen a lot of late game from him, but perhaps we'll see a little bit of that in this series. Inno, on the other hand, of course, an absolute beast when it comes to standard play. Doesn't like to mix it up too much. Every now and then he'll do a tank push of some sorts, but most of the time we just get to see your standard Widowmine drop into 3-Rex play. So I'm curious to see if that's the same thing we're gonna see now. He does like to open up with a Raven every now and again then as well. So let's see where this will head. So far, just a rather standard Nexus Cybercore opener, so just a 1-gate expand out of Trap. And what did we see from our good friend Innovation? Just looks pretty standard, honestly. Nothing too crazy going on here. Might see a quick reactor, second gas, so that's a quick second gas, and then will be followed up by a factory. So looks to be a gas first from our good friend Innovation. Second pylon actually is on the high ground here by Trap, which most of the time would indicate that you don't care too much about walling the low ground, so you're not afraid of Hellions. Here comes the Reaper. We'll be able to spot that adept, sees where the second pylon is located. So he knows there's only 2 locations where the tech of the Protoss can be right now, and that is either at the first pylon or at the second pylon. So Inno will dive in, we'll see the tech, and this Reaper has succeeded in his task right now. In theory it could have died. Of course, it's nicer to keep it alive as you force the units of Trap to stay at home. Now that the Reaper is still alive, you do need to build a 3rd unit if you want to move out with your units, or you need to keep 1 unit at home. And in this case we see Trap actually not moving out, starting Blink straight away from the Twilight Council, and now actually killing the Reaper, which is not that great for Innovation. This will allow Trap to move across the map, as we see happening right now. There's no bunker on the other side of the map. Innovation likes to skip the bunker, keep his Reaper alive. The moment, however, when your Reaper falls, usually we see a bunker go down. This is actually rather risky. Mine is out just now. Should be moving towards the low ground, as Innovation knows that there is no Oracle available. Loses 1 Marine for free. Wouldn't be surprised if he loses another Marine, maybe even 2, as there's 2 Stalkers on the way right now. There's an Adept here as well, and 2 Stalkers and an Adept actually can one-shot a Marine. So every time these guys will shoot, he will be able to get a kill. Now what he's gonna do is he's gonna shade up to get vision of the high ground, and then he's just gonna target a single Marine and try to kite backwards. So here we go. Yeah, doesn't have high ground vision anymore, does lose the Adept, so far killed 2 Marines in favor of 1 Adept. Not the greatest of trades, not an awful trade, just basically an even trade. Now, when we go back to Trap space, we see something interesting. We see 4 gases off of a Blink build, which usually indicates a fast Robo Bay. I yesterday did a guide on this build, which I actually did get from a lot of the Trap games. So what you do is you get another Warp in, you get maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5 Stalkers. Then you add your Robo Bay and your Forge. There we go. And then you want to be going into your 3rd base as soon as possible, once money really allows it. All the while getting 3, 4 observers out as well. Now, Innovation on the other hand, with that quick second gas, with that quick third gas even, will be spending some of his hard-earned gas into that Raven, which will be extremely helpful against Colossus, for sniping observers as well. We see the first observer is making its way across the map. Second observer will be going into the position above the natural base of Trap, and I wouldn't be surprised if a pylon will be put here and then perhaps a third observer over here or maybe around the tower, depending whether he can get that. First observer does die to the Raven, so one of the many utilities of the Raven, of course, is that it gets detection and you're capable of spotting observers. So very nice to use that for that specific purpose, just sniping a couple of observers. Now we see Trap, as he spots the Raven, this makes known to Trap that there's no medevac on the map with 2 mines in it. It's just not possible in how Terran build orders work. So now he knows he's allowed to move across the map, because he doesn't need to leave anything at home. You see, there's not a single stalker in his mineral line. So you could be thinking, hey, if something would come to his mineral line, he would be in a lot of trouble. This Raven was on the way to his mineral line, but gets spotted by the 7 stalkers. So far, Inno made a Raven, killed an observer, and then lost the Raven, which definitely isn't worth it. Tries to get the second observer as well, does get that. Trap, actually, this is one of the things that Trap is absolutely the best at. The stalling with the stalkers, the micro of individual stalkers against this kind of army is insanely good, and I think we'll see it a lot where he'll get so much done with very small forces of stalkers. Yeah, I'm not saying he's winning games with it, but it is very, very close to winning games with it. He'll kill like 5-6 Marines at a time rather often. Now, there's 2 pylons on the map here, and you might be wondering, what are these 2 bad boys doing here? Well, they're here for spotting purposes, as your robo time when you're playing a build like this is rather valuable, so you can't really, it's not even necessarily the money, but you can't necessarily be building observers all the time. You want to be building your Colossus and Prism perhaps. So then instead of observers, you want to be using those pylons to spot. They did get taken out by Innovation's army, so they will have to be rebuilt at some point. But for now, once Thermal Lens finishes, this kind of is a timing for Trap, where he has a very powerful army. He has Blink, he has Charge, and he has 2 Colossus with a range advantage over his opponent's army, which basically means that he can chase and he can try to start fighting for that map control that he wants. Innovation is desperately trying to not move back to the main base or to the third base, because the moment he moves back towards his third base or his natural, Trap can basically force a fight there, whether that is at this ramp or somewhere over here, in a good position with those Colossus, and there's no Vikings on the map out yet. So Innovation is pulling away the main army, and eventually will probably be going either into a drop or trying to do a somewhat beneficial trade. Now, this wasn't the best of trades, as you can see from the units lost, but it wasn't too bad either. And he completely pulled the army out of position, meaning that the next couple of medevacs are capable of actually sniping a Colossus and trying to go into the natural right now as well. Will be met with a bunch of Zealots, a bunch of Stalkers, still some units coming from that high ground as well. So altogether this was a very beneficial trade for Trap, but it did give Innovation a lot of time. He already has 2 Vikings out, there's 2 more Vikings on the way, second starport is on the way as well as a Ghost Academy, and really against this kind of Colossus count, you don't really need that many Vikings. Ideally you have 6 to 8 Vikings when he gets to your side of the map, but with 4 Vikings and perhaps an SCV pool, you can make something work. So here comes the big Stalker army, there's still a bunch of Zealots there. If we know the upgrades are 1-1 against only +1 of Trap, so slight upgrade deficit here for Trap, who will need to do something here. You see he doesn't have any follow-up. That good blink forward does manage to get a couple of the Vikings. Mines are being burrowed, will go off on those Zealots. Bunch of SCVs falling already. Those Colossus absolutely roasting the SCVs, but this is a mainly Marauder army, so Trap has to be extremely careful with his positioning. You see he's moving back towards this little choked off area where it's easier to force field. And I wouldn't mind if Trap would just go home at this point. He already achieved his goal. He forced a lift on this third base. Now a couple of extra Vikings come in, and there's a big Marauder army here. Good concave being set up by Innovation. Blink forward, which is a little bit debatable if that was the right play there. Loses a bunch of Stalkers. Vikings do go down, but so do the Colossus actually. And it seems like Innovation with the upgrade lead will be able to make it work. And the army supply actually is kind of in favor of Innovation right now. 56 against 30. I really don't think it was necessary for Trap here to stay. He had already killed 15 workers. He had a Dark Shrine on the way. He had a 4th on the way. He was just up like 15 to 20 workers. Had a massive supply lead, or well, massive 10, 15 supply lead. He could have just returned home, started disruptors, probably get the gases on his 3rd base as well, and get a couple of extra probes, and he would have been absolutely fine, as we really see no transition here for Innovation, or a transition into the mid game, as he still is only on a single engineering bay. No armory is done. Like, the thing that Innovation wanted to do very badly was fight. Like, Innovation was planning on a fight. He's getting those ghosts, he's getting the enhanced shockwave as well. Like, Innovation was setting up for a 3-base all-in already, as there was no extra upgrades on the way. And now he's still gonna most likely do that 3-base all-in. Except he has a little bit of an army supply lead, because Trap took such a terrible fight. Now, a lot of the workers are going down, and that will just basically trigger Innovation to pull a lot of the workers as well. We have one more DT slicing away at this army. How many scans are there available? There's none here, there's none here. There is a scan available here, so we'll be able to scan this DT. EMP can also be used to detect any cloaked unit, of course. 2 DTs do fall within that 1 scan, so that's pretty bad there by Trap. Trap, who probably will be giving up this base for free, or... This is very weird army movement here by Trap. He's gonna go for a base trade? I don't understand why he would walk around to then fight up a ramp once again. He had a good position here where he could fight. This seems like a weird way to go about things. Good EMPs hitting here by Innovation, and Vikings doing some absolutely magnificent work on those Colossus. Marauders absolutely ripping through the Stalkers as well, and there's still so many medevacs remaining. Final Ghost does go down. Vikings do need to land, so it's getting closer. But if you take a look at the army supply, you see 73 army supply against only 14 of Trap. And big question mark. Some questions being asked in Korean, and looks like Trap will lose the game. GG gets called, and Innovation wins game number 1. Welcome back to game number 2. Innovation up 1-0 in this beautiful best of 9 series between Trap and Innovation. And on the bottom I'm spawning as the red Terran. It is Inno. And in the top left as the blue Protoss, it is Trap. Now Trap tried the Blink Stalker Colossus style, worked relatively well, but then just took one bad fight at the 3rd base, I want to say, which really just put him in a bad spot. DTs managed to do some work, and then we had that final engagement that Trap took so weirdly, where he went to that lower ground. I'm not quite sure what to think of that now. We see a barracks first coming out of Innovation. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if he just heads into a standard mine drop or of some sort, or maybe a similar Raven open that we saw last game. Trap on the other hand, safe and solid as always, does probe scout. You can of course keep your probe at home and pray that there is no proxy on the map, which honestly against Innovation I wouldn't mind too much. Innovation not really known for proxying, not really known for doing any crazy stuff in the early phases of the game. Just wants to get into a standard game and win through superior micro and macro from there. So I really wouldn't mind a no scout, as it does give you a lot of extra money. It gives about 150 minerals and about 60 gas, so that's basically one tech structure. It's almost a robotics facility that you're winning by not scouting. Sadly, we're not seeing that out of Trap here. Well, he'll think it's sadly, because we see Inno is playing extremely standard. Second gas coming down. Once again, no pylon on the low ground. So the pylon will be used for spotting this Reaper spot. And the reason why Trap can do that is because he scouts that it's a barracks first. Well, what is the difference between a barracks first and a gas first? A barracks first from Terran means that if they open Reaper, that the factory tech will be delayed by about 15 to 20 seconds. Which means that if the Terran player will open with Hellions, which is the main reason why you're walling, it means that if they open up with Hellions, is that you can just you have a warp in available already once they get there with 4 Hellions. The first 2 Hellions you won't have anything, but you'll have 3 gateway units if you build continuously. So against barracks first, you don't actually need to wall. Now, of course, there is a little trick that if Terran opens up barracks first and goes into Marine, they save the 50 gas from the Reaper. It can get very fast Hellions. In that case, if you have the second pylon up on the high ground, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. But we don't see Inno do that, so our boy Trap will be fine. We'll be chrono boosting out his second Stalker as well. And Innovation actually hasn't been able to see the tech yet, so we'll be gambling a little bit on what is going to happen. And if you're not quite sure what's going to happen, usually Mind Drop is a safe option. It's an all-around good build that is safe against, well, basically everything. Except maybe against a proxy Stargate, it's a little difficult to play. But as Innovation spotted that there was a second pylon, I don't think he's very afraid of a Stargate. Once again, losing the Reaper at the Watchtower, by the way. Very similar to what happened in that first game on Eternal Empire. And we'll be playing a similar move as well. We'll be shading up with that Adept. We'll be trying to do some damage onto those Marines. There is a mine already here. I wouldn't mind if you just put one of the mines over here. In case Trap decides to walk up that ramp. Here we see double Mind Drop starting. A little bit of that poking and prodding going on, and this actually is a very low Marine count. There's 7 Marines now, there's 3 units out for the toss, and these units are capable of one-shotting Marines. Oh, Innovation accidentally shooting at one of his own units. Loses 1 Marine already, we'll probably lose 1 or 2 more once the shade becomes available once again. We see this little group being pulled back. Good micro by Inno. Very good micro by Inno. Will actually survive with all of his units. And now the clock is running out for Trap as 4:30, 4:35 is about the first timing of the Mind Drop. And he actually isn't in position whatsoever, which is a little bit surprising. So let's see how will Trap respond. We'll warp in a second stalk here. Another pylon goes down. One mine will get dropped into the natural and the next mine will get dropped into the main. So Trap will need to pull away workers from every single base. Will end up losing. Oh, this is beautiful. As there's no units here, you can just burrow, unburrow, and force another worker pull away. Oh, this actually is gonna do some damage. 4 workers go down for 2 mines, and 2 full mineral lines needed to be pulled. This was a very successful trade here for Innovation. He's gonna be extremely happy with that. He does have a bunker going down now, realizes that Blink is about to be finished, and that most likely Trap will come knocking onto his door. Once again, by the way, we see Trap with a very similar game plan to last game. We see that Blink into the Colossus. Oh, I absolutely love this micro by Trap as well. It's so good the way he does this. We have the Observer here, so he has vision of that ramp. He has vision of the bunker as well. And there's a little bit of an opportunity perhaps to blink into this area, but it's going to be very difficult to micro. Oh, here we go. As I say that, he just jumps in, kills 1 Marauder for free. Marine goes down as well. Second Marine goes down. This micro is absolutely fantastic by Trap. Gets another Marine even. Doesn't end up getting another unit, but this is extremely efficient play here with these 6 Stalkers. Just jumps in, kills a Marauder, 2-3 Marines, and if I was Inno, I'd be very afraid to move down towards my bunker. I would want to stand into my main base as long as possible, because you know, the moment you move out of your main base, someone's gonna jump in again, maybe try to snipe another Marine, maybe try to snipe a reactor. Very quick second starport here for Innovation, which is slightly misplaced, as you can see. It's not connected to that reactor, I do believe. Yeah, there we go. We'll need to lift it a tiny tad. And does our friend Trap? Trap is completely aware of that. Ooh, sees the double starport, sends a question mark to his opponent in the chat. What is his response? So usually this kind of play indicates an SCV pool with Mass Viking. So you don't really want to get too many Colossi against that. Instead, what Trap does is he starts his Disruptors. I actually wouldn't mind a cancel on the Thermal Lens here as well, as with only 1 Colossus, how useful is Thermal Lens either. But I'm a big fan of the Disruptor switch, because Vikings really are only good against Colossus. It's an awful unit to have against anything else really, as it doesn't shoot down. It's really a unit that only shoots up. Of course he can land them, but you don't really want to be spending your money into Vikings when you can be getting Marauders or a third base. And so far we're not really seeing a third base here for Innovation. who's sticking with his all-in plan basically, even sending one SCV across the map. Now, let's see how Trap will be able to deal with this army. A couple of Vikings are there first. Decent force fields going down, but this trade so far is looking absolutely fantastic for Innovation. Disruptor joins the fray right now as well. Should be able to survive with the help of this battery, I do believe. Marauders trying to deal some damage. There is a couple of Vikings, of course, to deal with this one Colossus. 2 Vikings going down, 3rd Viking going down, 4th Viking going down. So right now Trap is regretting that he built 2 Disruptors as a follow-up. 1 or 2 Colossus would really help him here, but because that initial trade was so bad, there's no force fields available, just a single one. No Guardian Shield here either, and honestly, when you build Disruptors against someone that micros like Inno, most of the time you're not gonna do damage. And as I say that, 3 Marauders do fall to the first Disruptor shot, so I guess even gods can bleed. 2 more Disruptors do have their balls ready. We'll be able to fire them out, but most of the time Innovation doesn't really take a lot of damage from Disruptors, from what I can tell. Innovation will be able to take down the 3rd base, so basically equaling up the base count right now. Another Marauder falls and another Marauder falls, so getting decent damage with those Disruptors, but you're really gonna need bigger hits in order to win this kind of a fight, I do believe. I mean, there's so many Marauders here. Final Colossus does fall, well, the only Colossus does fall, and there's 4 Disruptors right now, but Disruptors aren't really good in a straight up fight. They're good over time, and that's what Trap will need to do. He'll need to stretch out this fight for as long as possible, and he's doing a pretty good job at that, honestly. Liberator starts sieging up as well. Another Disruptor ball comes out. Good split by Inno, but gets caught in the last second. 2 Marauders and a Marine duo down. Another good hit. Lots of good hit actually here by Trap, and Inno microing a little bit sloppily actually. Hardly has any units remaining, but because his micro was so fantastic earlier on, he still is in a supply lead. Worker count is still even, which is good for Terran. Also an upgrade lead here for Innovation, which is fantastic. Good blink forward here by Trap though. We'll be able to catch a couple of the units. We'll not be able to get another medevac, but might just get 1 more Marine. There we go. Trap is starting to get very aggressive right now. What do we still have on the map here for Innovation? We have 8 Marauders and 4 medevacs, and honestly that should be fine, because you can't really easily push into a sieged up position when you have Disruptors. You gotta hope that you hit some Disruptor shots from a distance. We do see the 3rd base being rebuilt. No extra upgrades on the way though for Trap, which confuses me a little bit. So far we only have +1 attack. I wouldn't mind seeing either +2 attack or getting an armor upgrade. Oh, a lot of Disruptor balls actually hitting this game. I'm very surprised. It's very un-Innovation like. Just keeps bleeding out unit after unit, it feels like. Big drop being set up as well over here. Heading towards that 3rd base. Innovation right now floating his main to his 3rd base. So the funny thing is, this could scare Trap a little bit into actually being more aggressive. He's like, oh, his 3rd base is already done. Trap is not aware that that's his main base, of course. Like he can guess it, but it's a difficult guess to make. And here we have 2 dropship heading into the natural base. There's a little area here where dropships can't be attacked. So I wouldn't be surprised if Inno just leaves them there for a while. Some kind of distraction. Meanwhile, I have a big push towards the front as well. Another Marauder falling for free. Actually not for free, just trade it for a stock. And this army looks extremely squishy. If you do manage to get on top of this army or get in there from a good flank, I think it's going to be very difficult for Trap to micro that. This move out is very ballsy. He's completely unaware of where Innovation's army is. He knows there's still 2 medevacs here. He's kind of gambling on the fact that he's not going to drop them into the natural. Big scan coming down right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see these 2 medevacs just go towards his 3rd base as well. We have a big siege up. Hello? Use the 2 medevacs. Well, we'll instead leave them idling into the dead space. And even though this is a good siege up position, it doesn't seem like there's enough units here for Innovation. He really needs to use all the units he has, I do believe. But even then, there's 5 Disruptors, and once you get 2 Colossus in an army like this, you really add a little bit to the backbone of your army. So Vikings will start to work on those Colossus. 2 Colossus will fall at almost the same time, but so do all Vikings. And so does basically everything of the ground army that belonged to Innovation. And now those 2 medevacs that were there would have still been great to have. As right now there's really nothing keeping Trap from just moving across the map and going in for the kill. What is there for Innovation to truly stop it? He has a couple of Marauders, he has no Vikings. He's getting 4 Liberators at the time from those double reactored starports. We have 2 more Colossus on the way though, for our friend Trap. And his army supply is looking fantastic, but it's not only the army supply, it's also the quality in army. I mean, if this was 1 Colossus and just pure Zealot Stalker, it wouldn't be as great, but we have 5 Disruptors, which will be able to force so much lost DPS out of Innovation and frankly kill everything. GG gets called and Innovation loses game number 2, Trap wins and ties up the series. Alright, welcome back to game number 3 between Trap and Innovation. After that beautiful win there by Trap, let's see what he can make work in game number 3. See if Inno can manage to come back. We had some uncharacteristically sloppy micro by Innovation, who usually is known for his very solid and consistent micro. I would say he's one of the guys that he will pull some good moves as well, but he's mainly known for really not making mistakes. I want to say that's really his main strength. I mean, every player makes mistakes, but Innovation you always see very little mistakes, very close to perfect standard play. He isn't the guy that will do a crazy dropper play, crazy risky and get a lead that way. No, he's just more solid than the others. He just makes less mistakes. But last game, some sloppy micro, losing some Marauders here and there. Of course, it's very difficult to micro against Disruptors, don't get me wrong, but usually Innovation is extremely good at that, so I'm a little bit surprised by that. But of course, don't want to take away credit from Trap either, reading that game correctly, seeing the double starport going into those Disruptors, and some fantastic micro by him as well. Didn't take any bad fights, some good Stalker movement, good blinks forward, some good Colossi micro as well. So I'm happy to see this series tie up. As we see a Probe Scout trying to block that CC, actually doing a fantastic job. CC goes down at 80 minerals, which is very late. Innovation even had 2 SCVs there. Trap is really extremely good in this matchup. I mean, he's extremely good in general, but especially in this matchup, he just really shines. He really knows what's going on. He knows his transitions. He knows what to do. It's an absolute treat to watch. Now we have Innovation opening up once again with that barracks first. We'll be going into a Marine. Doesn't need to worry about any probe harassment or any quick adepts making their way across the map. Sure, they're discussing something that's very important. Sadly, I'm incapable of reading Korean, so you guys will have to guess what is being said. So once again, Innovation identifying where the second pylon is, identifying where the first pylon is, but sadly not getting a scout in on that Twilight Council yet. He'd love to get that, of course, because like I said earlier, Trap is known to play a lot of Stargate, but so far he's only shown Blink, which actually does surprise me. Ooh. What kind of a star sense is this? Absolutely. Oh, he missed it. Oh wow. It's absolutely crazy though that Innovation just went back here, realized that there was going to be a probe there somewhere. I find that extremely impressive. Bunker does get started, as he seems to be afraid of some kind of proxy for whatever reason. I'm not quite sure what he saw that made him this afraid. We'll lose a Marine for free. We'll lose a second Marine for free. Isn't being microed back. If he gets this Adept, however, it will be worth it. Does not get the Adept. Might still be able to get it with this Reaper though. No, Trap actually managing to trick Innovation here. Of course, Innovation had a lot of choices to make. Is he gonna go here? Is he gonna go here? Is he gonna go here? And Trap managed to shade out. So good trade there for Trap. Will be ahead in units lost. Actually, do see Cloak Banshee being started right now, which is a nice opening, but it's one that we don't see a lot anymore these days in PvT, especially if it's not with a Hellion opener. This Reaper might be able to finally get the information it desires. Sees the robo timing, would love to see. Okay, sees that there's Blink being researched and sees that there's a Chrono Boost on it. Of course, Chrono Boost can be faked, but there's no Dark Shrine either, so I'd be surprised to see a Raven being built here. I think this is just going to be double Banshee, either into triple CC or followed by a tank push with Marines. So it's hard to say exactly what's going to happen. Oh, actually 3 racks. Well, at least 2 racks. Ooh, that's very rare to see. A lot of the time when you see people open up with those bigger 1-1-1 plays where they make more units out of the factory and starport, you usually do see it followed up by a third CC. Instead we see a second barracks, so he will be going for a faster push as a follow-up behind this. Now, the reason this is so rare is because two Banshees and a tank, they really delay your stim and combat, giving your opponent a lot more time to set up. So even if you do a little bit of damage with your Banshee, the added 20-25 seconds that your opponents have to deal with the damage they receive, it basically just means most of the time the damage doesn't really mean that much. Even if you kill 5-6 workers, basically because the toss has extra 20-25 seconds, it doesn't really hurt that much. And if you don't do any damage, Protoss is going to be so far ahead that it becomes very difficult to play with this kind of build. So yeah, first Banshee falls for basically free. Two workers do go down. Where's that second Banshee heading now? It's still on the bottom side. We'll be going back home. So we see a little bit of a push here. This is a very odd push as well. We see that the third racks are second racks. And this feels extremely all-in, honestly. Is this with combat shield? This build seems very improper in some weird kind of sense, that there doesn't really seem to be any logic here. But what is the tech lab doing? I guess he saw something that triggered him to push out, but the moment that charge finishes, he's gonna have such a rough time with Marines without stim, without combat shield. And as long as Trap will be able to basically stall for that moment, he should be absolutely fine. Yeah, charge finishes and he's just gonna absolutely destroy this army here. I mean, charge lots onto tanks and Marines are just way better. It's just, you can't fight that with unstimmed, uncombat shielded Marines. It's impossible. It's a very confusing push that Innovation did here, which I don't quite understand. Because he basically was setting up, his whole infrastructure was set up around a stim combat shield timing, and then he pushes out at an earlier timing because he perhaps saw a perceived weakness, but I don't quite see the perceived weakness. Perhaps he was suspecting a similar play to last game, where it was blink into Robo Bay, and then this kind of build can be better because you have lower charge numbers. Your charge usually is later because you got to start the Robo Bay and your thermal lens first. So perhaps that's the reason why he decided to push out. So it's like a reaction to what we saw in the previous games. But right now this just looks so bad for Innovation, honestly. He's one tank, he's getting a third CC, but he's down in supply. He's absolutely down in workers by a lot. 6 gas is already done. You never want to have a Protoss on 6 gas before your third is finished. That is extremely bad. We do still have some tools of harassment on the map here. A single Banshee. Hopefully we'll be able to do some damage to Trap. Otherwise it's going to be extremely difficult here for Innovation to get anything done, to be honest. So full worker pool being forced. 3 workers will go down. Perhaps a 4th one. I mean, there's a prism out on the map already. I don't see Innovation ever moving out in the future. This Banshee is doing so much damage. This is really annoying to play against. Basically forcing a complete army to stay home, and now he's just gonna idle in this little location. Oh, this is so frustrating to deal with as a Protoss player. Unbelievable. Gonna need to leave 4 units in total. 2 Stalkers here, 2 Stalkers on this side for a 2 supply unit. That's 8 supply. With the Observer is 9 supply that he's gonna be wasting. Luckily for Trap, he's in such a good position that I don't think it really matters. You know, you can spare a couple of units here and there. As the command center does land on the 3rd location. Now, please do note this is not a rich Vespene geyser. This only is a single gas as well. We have a little bit of a drop into the main base. Innovation responding quickly with his reinforcements, and this warp in won't be fruitful at all. She will probably need to pick up his units and get the hell out of there. Won't even pick up his units. Some weird prism movement here by Trap. Will be able to make it out of his base though. These are a lot of Templars with Storm, aren't they? There are a lot of Templar with Storm indeed, and somehow Innovation, through the power of sheer macro managed to pull ahead about 20 supply after being down 25 workers. I have absolutely no clue how this happens. His army is extremely big. I can grant him that, but the quality of his army isn't that high. There's a bunch of storms still remaining, 3 storms, 3 storms to be exact. A lot of storms being wasted though, and perhaps Trap played this a little bit too greedy. I'm really not quite sure how this happened, but some good storms on the Widow Mines. All Widow Mines in the same location will be going down at the same time, and there's so many Immortals just ripping through this Marauder Marine force, especially against Marauders. I mean, Immortals are so powerful, doing extra damage against those armored units, of course. Just look at those Marauders. Well, Zealots coming in as well, and you know, we'll be able to escape with another storm coming down, and it's a big army here at the bottom as well, and hardly catching all the action here. Absolutely crazy micro by innovation, but he was just so far down, and I want to say it's almost impossible for him to win as long as these Immortals are still alive. Archon does end up falling. The worker count is just simply too high here for Trap. His reinforcements come too quickly in too high numbers as well. I mean, how many gateways are we on? Is this 5, 6? I believe this is 8 gateways. He has a robotics facility as well, continuously pumping out Immortals. 2-2 is on the way, and once that 2-2 finishes, we really see where Inno's plan is lacking, as there's no second eBay, there's no armory yet, there's no Ghost Academy even. I mean, Trap is going absolutely mental right now. He's just getting a second robotics bay. We'll probably be heading into 7 and 8 gases. There we go. Yeah, to fund that expensive hobby of building Colossus. Very gas intensive, of course. Now, the one thing that Trap is lacking a little bit is that he's not really has any map vision apart from the one observer. So now that he lost that observer, he's going to need to start spreading some units. And immediately we see that, right? We see this pylon being built. I wouldn't mind a pylon in this position. I kind of want to see something over here as well, as we're actually kind of blind as Trap. Look at that. Hardly have any vision of this area. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these zealots get spread out. Yeah, there we go. Always very important to do that. Prism goes into the main base. Of course, these zealots with 1-2 upgrade are rather tanky. Mine will be able to trigger on top of the Prism. So perhaps one more warp in, but big fight in the middle of the map at the same time, which I barely missed. Big storm coming down onto those mines. I mean, this army is just too small. Even if there was no storm, this would be a very difficult fight to take as well. But add storm into the mix and you have a practically impossible fight to win. GG gets called. Trap wins game number 3 as well. Alright, this will be it for now. I'll be uploading part 2 and perhaps part 3 of this series. Perhaps over the course of the week. So I look forward to that. Thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe, like and comment or whatever. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.